Welcome back to Vertical Thoughts. Welcome actually for the first time here to Vertical Thoughts. If you're listening on Spotify or iTunes, you have no clue what I'm talking about, and that's okay. We like you as well. If you are watching this on YouTube, you can see us. You can see us.
Hello.
This is us. There has never been a better opportunity to shout out NBC's This Is Us. Great show.
Great show.
Check it out. It'll make you cry real tears.
Every episode.
Yeah, roller coaster. Today, I have, as usual, a very special guest with me, Breanna Tucker.
Hello.
Breanna or Breanna?
Both.
Or does it? Yeah, just.
Yep, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's a Friday. We'll go with Breanna.
You know, my dad calls me Breanna. My mom calls me Breanna. I know. Couldn't make up their mind.
I inadvertently sided with your dad. It's the patriarchy, dude.
It's the patriarchy.
It finds its way into everything.
Let's
That
talk
was
about
my
that.
privilege. I apologize for that. Breanna,
Yes.
welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here in the Vertical Thoughts studio in downtown Florida.
Right, because that's exactly where we are.
That's where we are.
Yep.
Sunny. It's nighttime. A brisk Florida evening.
You can't trust anything you say.
I'm a loose cannon. All right. How long have you been climbing for? We'll start with that.
I've been climbing for about 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah, on and off. In the beginning, not very much, and then really consistently for like 2 years.
Okay. What started climbing for you? For a lot of people, it begins so abruptly, and that you're like, hey, I'm going to try this thing. This looks all right. And then you're like, this is the greatest sport
Of all time.
Yeah, I'm going to do this every day. That's how it is for most people that climb. Was it like that for you?
It was a little bit.
Okay.
I started to begin with just kind of like playing, and then was immediately hooked. But because of where I was in my life, I couldn't really climb consistently. And then I started climbing consistently like a year after that and was there every day. Every day. And we'll talk a lot about why. Why, yes. So that was like during a time when I was super depressed, and climbing shot me right out of that.
So, yeah, I think that for climbing specifically, I think that a lot of people find some kind of respite with climbing. Climbing tends to find people. We use that with Jeremy's episode. If you guys haven't listened to Jeremy's episode, at Sleep, Eat, Climb, Repeat is his Instagram handle. Check it out. It's a great episode. But we talked about that a little bit with how climbing seemed to find him at a certain point in his life when he needed it the most. And it helped to change his life. And coincidentally, I, being the visionary that I am, I titled that episode, How Climbing Changed My Life.
Such a visionary, Will.
Off the top. Yeah, crazy. But worth a listen. And I think truly that climbing comes into your life. Whenever it comes into your life, it's something that is maybe a tool, can be utilized, can also be overused. You can hurt yourself, you know what I mean? But you can really use it if you're careful, cautious, and if you pay attention to what you're doing. Climbing, when you start climbing at least, can really fix things. Or if not fix them, it can at least help to, it's kind of like what you don't, if you're a prayer person, if you pray, don't pray for the answers or the results, but pray for the tools by which to get the results. It's like climbing is the same thing. It won't give you direct results as far as fixing any problems, but it does provide you a platform by which to get some of that circulated and put some of your energy into the wall as opposed to just holding it all inside.
Absolutely. And I think for me, it was a lot of getting into my body in a really healing way because I was stuck in my head. And, a lot of what I experience has a lot to do with trauma and trauma of my body. And so being able to take back control of what my body's going to do and what I'm allowed to do with it was not only empowering, but healed me.
Yeah.
And I'm a mental health therapist. And so I think a lot about how trauma is, how it impacts the brain. And for me, I feel like it was making it so that I couldn't feel happiness anymore. And a lot of that is neurobiological and gets into neurons in your brain. But getting into my body helped my brain relearn how to feel happy again. And then it's just like you said, it's a tool for me, it was a lot of breathing. Mm-hmm. So when you're climbing, you have to really be conscious of, are you breathing? How are you breathing? When are you breathing? And is that synced to your movement? And when I started actually getting better at climbing, it's when I was really focusing on breathing.
Yeah.
So not only was it something that was calming me and something that was a routine in my life that was getting me to feel happy again and getting those wonderful serotonin feelings in my brain happening again, but it was also turning into a meditation.
Yeah.
So during that time, I also started learning about meditation. And it was, I would get to the gym and meditate on the wall. Like that was my space where I wouldn't talk to anybody except for when I was just playing. Mm-hmm. And breathing and being conscious of where my body was and being super mindful about how the wall and the plastic or if I was outside, how the rock felt in my hands. It puts you in your body like nothing else.
Yeah, it really does. We talk about it all the time. And climbing is singular in the way that, you have to pay attention to your whole body. Mm-hmm. Not many other things are like that. Aside from, I can think of a couple. I would say maybe swimming is probably very similar, where you have to, every part of your body's got to be kind of, tense in a way, or focused, or intentionally not tense, or, but climbing is very body intensive.
Yeah.
Your entire body's active and engaged, and your core is tight, and, mm-hmm. You're, tight, and, because climbing is, it's tight, dude. That's what this is all about. Yeah. Welcome to the show, by the way.
Thank you.
Did you know this is a show about rock climbing?
What?
It's crazy that you're talking about rock climbing right now.
What a coincidence.
Yeah. I thought...
Wow, Liam, I don't even know.
It's Good Friday, by the way. Happy Good Friday. This episode's going to go up on Monday, like a week from Monday, so it's not going to be Good Friday anymore.
But
Happy past Good Friday.
I hope you had a good Friday and a good Easter.
That's enough.
Enough from you.
Good Friday is not something to joke about.
Yeah, fair.
Climbing is such a therapeutic thing for so many people. Mm-hmm. And it's a beautiful thing because it's one of those very, very challenging physical actions that, I'll give you an example. So when I said earlier that climbing giveth and climbing taketh away, today I decided to go climb a little bit prior to our session here. I got some new shoes, and we all know the stoke. The stoke of getting new shoes.
Super stoke.
You're like, dude, I need to break these in so my feet don't explode.
Right.
That's the stoke.
Slip off the wall.
Yep. So I took the new shoes to the gym and I began to climb. And just, it's an off day. That's the only way to explain it. Everyone has off days, and even when you're having an off day, it's difficult to remember that everyone has off days.
Yeah.
Oh man, I felt very bad. Extremely bad at rock climbing today. And I think they turned up the gravity in the gym. Yeah, they just cranked it up.
Something about the moon.
Yeah, it's a full moon. Is it the 19th? It actually is a full moon.
It's a radically full moon too.
Dude,
called the pink moon.
Rad.
Yeah.
It's a rad moon right now.
It's actually a good day to, if you care about the moon or cycles or signs or anything like that, is to let go of anything that doesn't serve you.
I know you're watching this like a week and a half later, but let it go, man.
Let it go. Let go anything that doesn't serve you.
Let it go.
Yes. So you know what mine was today?
What?
So I created an intention because I'm like, whether this is true or not, it doesn't hurt to create an intention for my day.
Sure.
So I was like, I'm going to let go of control because I have a hard time with feeling like I need to be in control of everything.
Yep.
Like not only my projects and not only my work, but also who I am and also everyone around me. So that's also considered like a control type codependency where you are trying to control everyone around you. And so today I was like, I'm going to try and let go of that control. Full moon, take it away from me. And
take it
back to what you were saying, that today was kind of an off day. is I feel like that's a little bit of climbing is you don't have all of the control. And as weird and like kind of spiritual as that is like sometimes you will not have all the capacity to climb as you do other days. And a little bit of that is like, what can you learn from that? Mm-hmm. And what can you let go of in terms of needing to be in control? And that's at least for me. And climbing does that. I mean, it will push you.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I have never been more frustrated than when I'm climbing.
Yep.
And also never felt so much joy. And like,
it's a freaking roller coaster.
Oh my gosh, it's a roller coaster. So if you've never climbed before and somehow stumbled across this podcast, do climb.
It's a roller coaster. You like roller coasters? You like roller coasters.
Who doesn't like roller coasters? A lot of people.
Go climb.
Yes.
Just do it.
You might fall, but it's fine.
You will absolutely fall.
But it's fine.
Yes. Don't die.
Try not to.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Good advice.
Thank you.
I don't know. It's like you're not always going to be on top of your game.
No.
And it is, I mean, it gets exponentially worse because you like realize that you're having a bad day,
and then
that,
you're
like, bums you out. Yeah, and then your muscles get tired quicker. And dude, I had Popeye forearms after. Like, I'm still a little pumped. I mean, we're here 2 hours later, and I'm like, I don't know what happened. The lactic acid is strong today or something.
And it depended on my mood, how I felt climbing. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why it was so healing for me, is because it was this reciprocal process that if I went into the gym pissed off or depressed or super anxious that day, that impacted the way that I climbed. But if I kept climbing and like pushed through any sort of negative feeling, mm-hmm. then climbing itself brought me back to my center.
Right.
And so it was like either it was climbing that brought me back to my center, or I was centered and was climbing, and then I was a better climber.
Yep.
And then sometimes you feel great emotionally.
Yeah.
And you're a crappy climber. And it's just...
It'd be like that. Today, in fact, it'd be like that for me.
Yeah.
It's rough.
Oh, yeah. It's rough.
I was like, dude, I'm feeling strong today. I was like, pulling up to the gym, shit. I'm gonna crush, dude. And the worst part is our gym has not reset for going on 2 weeks now. There's a competition coming up, which, by the way, May 4th, Vital Marietta.
May the 4th.
Be there. May the 4th.
Be with you.
Be with you, and also be with us
together.
Vital Marietta.
At the same place.
At the Quattro de Mayo competition. We're gonna have a booth.
A booth?
You like this sticker right here? Right here? It's right there. You want one?
You want one?
Yeah, no, you want one.
Come get one.
Go on, get yourself a little sticker.
Get yourself
maybe
a
little,
sticker.
like a little shirt or something. Just saying.
It's dope merch.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I love the logo.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I handcrafted it out of sticks and stones on the beaches of the Galapagos Islands.
I think that's a true statement.
It is. Nothing's ever been truer.
You speak only truth on this podcast. That's what I'm discovering.
Yes.
Yes.
Nothing incorrect has ever been said on this podcast. Right. After all, it's brought to you by Disney. You can't lie.
Brought to you by... You wouldn't say that it's brought to you by Disney if it wasn't.
You would have to be sick in the head to say that.
You would. Well, we are all sick in the head, which brings me back.
Let's recenter to the topic about us being sick in the head.
Yes.
I mean, it is what it is. It's like fact of life. And if you don't deal with it with climbing, you're going to deal with it with something else, I hope. Yes. Yeah, if you have nothing to deal with your problems, I would encourage you to attempt climbing. Give it a shot. Especially if maybe you already climb, but you don't necessarily use it as any kind of like a therapeutic output. Try it in that way because it's the meditation thing, coming back to that.
Yeah.
A lot of climbers will find meditative outlets through climbing, you know, like you're like, oh, I took up climbing and then they had yoga classes. So I tried yoga and now I'm Zen, bro. Like, you know,
I've reached nirvana.
That I'm Zen, bro also is the title of my upcoming novel. It's an autobiography about me. That's
fantastic.
This fall.
I'm Zen, bro. You're going to write it by this fall. Cool.
Now I'm Zen, bro. Dude, it's writ already.
It's already writ.
Dude, it's writ, bro. But I personally found climbing similarly to what we were talking about earlier. I found climbing at like exactly the right time.
Oh, yeah.
Weird crossroads in my life. It was one of those like the not American dream, or like, you know, the American nightmare. It had nothing to do with America or anything.
But
and
it was
really
a
wasn't
nightmare.
that bad. But it was, you know,
It was your nightmare.
it was a mild American nightmare. Also, the title of my autobiography is A Mild American Nightmare.
It's
coming this fall.
It's two. Nope, it's the same. Cool. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
same book.
Cool. Mm-hmm.
It's got many titles, like me. So
Complicated man.
you know what they say. Anyways, long story short, I won't get sappy about it because I wasn't sappy about it then, and it's the way I deal with things in my life. But my parents split up at a strange time in my life emotionally. Sophomore year of high school.
Ugh.
We all remember sophomore year of high school.
The worst year of high school.
Yes. Not the greatest time for like emotional crises. No. Because you're incapable of dealing with anything like that when you're a sophomore in high school. And so parents split up. And I shouldn't use the term split up because my parents had a very mild divorce. It was, you know, understanding. It was kind even. It was, yeah. So we were fortunate in that way. My parents didn't just like split up. Yeah. But for all intents and purposes, parents divorced, you know, kind of went their separate ways. Growing up in a family that I felt like that would never happen to. Yeah. And people externally would look at our family and think that would never happen.
Like, what a perfect family.
Right.
Yeah.
And it, you know, it just happens because it happens. Right. I won't get into why it happened because you ask my mom and dad, frankly.
Right. They're not here.
Go find them. Yeah. And ask them why it happens. But,
yeah.
You know, my bad feelings were not towards them. My bad feelings were towards the situation.
For sure.
And
you were a sophomore.
And I was a sophomore. And the angst was
real.
Way up there. Yeah. There was lots. I'm out of frame, I'm pretty sure right now. That's how angsty I was. Yeah. Angst. And so my friends Mark and Tanner were rock climbers just forever. And they were always trying to get me to go climbing with them. And like just every day after school, what should we do? Oh, we should go climbing. You want to go climbing? Let's go climbing. And I was like, dude, I don't want to go climbing.
You're like, that's lame.
It's the dumbest thing, dude. Yeah. It's the worst. Stop. I had never done it though. I had no idea.
You had no idea.
Oh, I did not know. You don't know.
I don't even know.
But then I knew.
And you knew it.
And I knew. And then I knew again, like probably like twice a week.
Did you keep climbing right after you started forever until now?
I've had a little bit of a wishy-washy climbing history. There have been random like 6-month to a year breaks kind of scattered throughout my climb. And every time it sets me back like a lot farther than I wish it to.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm like, dude, it's like riding a bike, dude. And I come back and I'm like,
I'm dead.
This is the hardest thing in the world. How did I do this ever? And then right now I'm at my I don't want to say peak. Hopefully we're getting better, but I am
you're better than you ever
better
have
at climbing than I've ever been. Which is funny because I'm also in like the worst shape that I've been in. But that's part of it, right? Because here's the thing. So parents divorced. In my angst, I quit playing soccer. I was good at soccer. I was very good. And to this day, I regret the decision, but not like regret in a way that like if I could go back, I would do it differently because I wouldn't. I would still quit soccer. It's just like it was going to happen. It still sucked though. Just like the divorce. It was going to happen. Right. It still sucked. Yeah. Yeah. So I quit soccer. Just kind of one day at practice, I was there and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's kind of lost meaning to me. So
bye.
See you guys. I told the coach and he was like, well, that sucks. But all right. You told me you're not coming back, then I guess you're not coming back. So.
And you never went back?
Never went back.
Wow.
Except that I couldn't change my 6th period from soccer to something else. So I was still present at practices.
Were you just not practicing?
I just was not participating. Mildly awkward. Made for some awkward, eye contact and that kind of thing.
Stop.
Yeah, that was real.
That's too good.
Thank God I found climbing because that was enough to drive a boy mad, right?
Especially as a sophomore.
As a sophomore.
I can't even. Yeah.
Yeah. And finally, Mark and Tanner, they wore me down. They can be a lot. And they wore me down. I went climbing and I was like, you know what? This is pretty cool. My fingers are falling off. Let's do it some more.
I want to do that more.
Yeah, once my
I'm
fingers
bleeding.
grow back. I don't know if you guys have ever climbed for the first time. I'm assuming you have. Statistically, like, pretty good chance you have.
Pretty good chance you've climbed at least once.
Yeah. If you've climbed at least once, you've climbed for a first time, and you remember the flappers.
Oh, man.
It's hell.
Hell.
And I was weak sauce. Let me tell you. I'm a small boy now. I was very small and very weak before I started climbing. I didn't do anything upper body ever. I never worked out.
You were a soccer player.
I was a soccer player. And as everyone knows, if you don't have fat to burn when you're doing cardio, you burn muscle.
Ah, yes.
And I did not have fat to burn.
You were a scraggly boy.
Yes, I was very scrawny.
Yes.
I'm a little scrawny still, but...
But you're strong scrawny.
Yeah. Now
I would not consider
thick.
you scrawny.
Now I'm thick and scrawny
Are you a
at the
thick
same
boy?
time. I'm a thick
boy.
man, actually.
God.
Come on my show.
Rude.
Insult me with...
God, I know. I should just leave.
I just need to take a 5. You know, we couldn't get Alex Honnold on the show, so we got this guy. Welcome to the show. What's this guy's problem?
On my podcast?
Dude, is this guy bothering me?
Get the producer. Where'd she go?
Producer's a cat.
Well, it definitely came into my life exactly when I needed it. And climbing uniquely came into my life exactly when I needed it. So I started as a gymnast when I was little and was really good, really fast at gymnastics and competitively so, and was undefeated in gymnastics. And that taught me that I'm the best at everything, of course.
As kids learn.
Right, of course. And then I was a dancer, and that came really easy. And I was a diver, and from gymnastics to diving, that's a really comfortable switch.
Right.
And so I was pridefully very good at fitness and pridefully very good at sports in terms of winning, you know. Right. So that's what I was taught. And during that time when I was a kid, so that was all before I entered college. I was a diver in college, but during that time, like I said earlier, I developed this control type codependency behavior pattern. And I won't speak specifically about why that is, because like you said about your parents, if they're not sitting here in the room, then we can't really talk about them.
Sure.
But I'll just say that generally people who develop control type codependency behavior patterns grew up with an alcoholic parent. Sure. So generally that's what happens.
Right.
So you feel like you have to be the parent and take care of your parent, and therefore you have to parent and take care of everybody around you. So not only was I the best at the sports that I was in, but I also felt like I had to take care of everybody around me. So that made me both feel like I was out of control and in control at the same time. It was like this really strange dynamic. And I got really anxious because of all of that. And right after college, so through college, I was actually developing some pretty intense panic and would have panic attacks and started having, instead of externalizing my control type behaviors, I internalized. And so I restricted my eating and had to be a certain weight and all of that. So I hadn't yet found a healthy physical outlet that was spiritually healthy, metaphysically healthy, all that good stuff. And then after college, I actually experienced a sexual trauma and so was robbed of my control over my own body. And within that was kind of shown through violence that I don't have control. And so then I started climbing just per happenstance. Is that even a phrase? Per happenstance?
If not before, it is now.
It is now.
Yeah.
As you said, climbing found me. And it was the first time that I had really felt like a fitness routine was serving me in a way that was spiritual and meditative, and it was healing me because I was back in control of my body. So someone tried to take the control of my body and I was taking it back. And so that was empowering. It was, again, metaphysical. I mean, I felt like I was a spiritual being having a human experience. And with that, I was climbing, like I was on the wall. I was like on the rock. I was in control of my own body.
Right.
And another great thing about climbing is that I was terrible at it.
Right.
And so,
isn't that great?
You're right.
It's the best.
I mean, I was absolutely awful. And as a super competitive spirit and someone who needs to be in control, that like really rubbed my gears.
Yeah.
That I was not very good at it. And so it checked my ego in a really powerful way. And it also gave me the freedom to be in my own body and space in a way that was healing. And then I got better at it. And that was also encouraging and reframed my relationship with my own self.
Right.
And so that was, it was powerful. There's no other way to explain it other than like spiritual and powerful. Not like any other sport that I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
So, it was incredible and came to me in a time that I really, really needed it. And then, during that time, I also started seeking some pretty great therapy.
Sure.
And I was pursuing my own career, which is mental health therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was doing a lot of things at the same time. And so healing just became at my forefront, and climbing was the leader in that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool.
It's cool that you can utilize a sport in that way. And through the failures and through the victories and through the ups and downs of climbing, you can rediscover yourself in that way.
Absolutely.
And that's awesome. And you can't mentally or physically prepare yourself for anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
You think you know what it's like, or you think you might know what it's like, or you think you may know how you'd react. You can't, you don't.
No.
It's just anyone who's been through anything like that experiences it differently and deals with it differently, and they find relief from it differently. And I think that it's far more common than we would care to admit.
Oh,
and,
it absolutely is.
That's tragic. It's the nature of the world. We look for good in a bad place, but climbing is always a good place.
Yeah.
Yeah. As long as you can, be in a good headspace while you're climbing and not be like me and getting angry at the gym. It's like crying in the club, right. Sweaty and mad at the gym. Sweaty and Mad at the Gym is also the title of my autobiography coming this fall.
Right. It is all of those things.
It's going to be a good book.
It is. I'm looking forward to it.
Sarcasm?
No. Yeah. I would never be sarcastic with you. Never.
You guys hear this? I don't even believe you. You're done.
I'm donezo.
But also, we're going to continue.
Taking my beer and leaving, but also I'm going to sit here and keep doing it.
My glass. You may take the beer. You have to leave the glass. But
oh, beautiful.
I love climbing for that. I think that everyone who's there is there for a different reason. And I think we all stay for the victories and the failures. Failing is a beautiful thing in climbing.
Yes.
Because climbing is literally pushing the limits of your body in a way that there's no other way you can push yourself like climbing. No. You're pushing yourself.
I can't tell you how many times I've cried at the climbing gym.
Yeah, crying.
And not because I'm necessarily in pain.
Sure.
But because I'm so frustrated.
Yeah. And you just want to punch something with your tears. I just get quiet and sweaty and angry.
Yes.
Yes. Quiet, sweaty, and angry. 3, very unflattering.
Quiet, sweaty, angry.
Yes, quiet's not so bad. When you move on to sweaty, you lose, a good 50% of the people.
And then you put in angry.
And then you're angry.
And then people are like, what is up with that dude?
Come on,
we're just climbing.
Yeah.
Chill out.
What is vascularity? What a weirdo. This guy's got enough lactic acid to go around. No, but you got to be in the right headspace for climbing because it's so challenging.
Yeah.
And like you said, if you come into it down here, you're either going to climb through the emotions or you're going to climb through the emotions downwards. Right. Yeah. And it's going to drag you down.
And, honestly, I think that's why it was so healing for me, is because I was existing, like my baseline was really low. And so by climbing and kind of like, honestly, I would start climbing and get a little lower.
Yeah.
And then when I would break through and, you know, top out or whatever it is, it brought back the good, happy feelings that I thought that I would never feel again.
Yeah.
When you're in a space of depression, it feels like you will never be happy again. And I mean, it genuinely feels that way. I mean, you begin to accept it as part of who you are and part of your personality. And if you spent any amount of time with me, you know that I am not that. Like, depression does not characterize my personality.
Yeah.
So it just really speaks to how powerful depression was in my life, because I am a very happy person. So, but I really felt like I would never be happy again. And so getting a climb, you know, taking someone's beta and being like, all right, I'll work with that. Or, you know, figuring out on your own and finding community where I felt like I would never be able to trust anybody again was magic for me. And so because of that, I would get past the lows and realize I can feel happy again. I can conquer something.
Yeah.
Even if it's this climb, at least it's something. And then eventually it's conquering things in my life, putting back in healthy patterns, putting back in healthy coping skills, putting back in people in my life that are good, and eating well, and therapy.
Yeah.
And all of that really started because I started climbing.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that's been taken from you. And like you described, taking it back through climbing.
Yeah.
There's lots of things that you can obtain through climbing. You can even learn about yourself and your body and your limits, and you can push your own limits, which is a beautiful thing. But you touched on the community there a little bit, and I think that was a big part of it for me. Was the community of climbing and the coalition that happens at a climbing gym, and
it's unreal, friends.
We're like
it's
this.
Unreal. It's unreal.
It's awesome, and you don't get it in other sports. You get climbing's a very personal sport. It's not necessarily, unless again you are a competitive climber. If you are just climbing at a gym, though, it is not or should not be you versus them.
Right.
Should be us versus us.
Yes, it's you versus you.
Yeah. You versus the last time you climbed.
Right.
Yeah. So
which is sometimes worse, like sometimes way more aggravating. Yeah.
Yeah. I dropped 3 grades today, so I got nowhere to go.
There you go.
Next time I climb, I'm gonna crush.
Oh yeah. Great way to look at it.
Crush that weak boy that was at the gym today. I love the friends that I've met through climbing. When I moved here to Murrieta, California, I did not know anyone. And that's not an exaggeration. I didn't know anyone. And I saw, actually, I had not heard there was a climbing gym down here. I didn't know the Vital existed. And I moved down here alone, not like alone like you would picture, like just me sitting alone in my apartment eating string cheese and crying, like a pretty realistic imagery. I'm going to hand it to you, but I was fine.
That was exactly what I was picturing.
That's what I was doing.
Great.
So. No, I was fine. I was happy. I was content with my life. The only thing I was sad about was that I had a dog and then I didn't have a dog, and then I was sad. She didn't die, but I wasn't able to have my dog where I lived.
Oh.
And so that was sad.
Yeah.
That was about it as far as like sadness in my life. Obviously I was missing a lot that I didn't even know I was missing.
Oh yeah.
Until I got it. Mm-hmm. And that's a tricky thing. And it's a different situation, where you had something ripped from you. You had something taken forcefully from you. Whereas I didn't even know I didn't have it. So climbing is an all-powerful source of finding peace and finding solace. Yeah. You can, no matter what your backstory is, no matter where your demons come from, no matter where your problems lie, climbing can help you cope.
Absolutely. And to go back to the community aspect, I think that was huge for me because I was so supported. And honestly, I was much stronger of a climber than I am now, but being recognized as a strong female climber and for people to be like, oh, like you're one of the strongest female climbers in the gym. And I'm like, what?
Me?
Huh? What? But then, like, it wasn't because I was strong that people were community. I mean, I felt community immediately.
Sure.
And there were, you encourage each other. You cheer for each other. You encourage, like, you are like, hey, I see that you're trying to get that climb. You can do it.
Yeah.
Or care for some beta. You know, like, this is how I did it. Or if you don't like that, you know, leave me alone and don't talk to me. And they read on that too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They can feel that real strong. But I felt so much joy when I would walk into the climbing gym and knew people that were there.
Yeah.
That really changed my relationship with climbing, was when I knew the people in the gym.
Yep.
And they would get excited when they saw me. And I felt like I was a person again. Instead of existing through the world, like, I was like, how could someone treat another human the way that I was treated? And so therefore I'm just invisible. And then to walk into the gym and for people to be like, oh, Bree's here. It's like, oh, I'm not invisible. Like, you notice that I'm here? How cool is that? And I'm not even a really strong climber. Like, and these were like the strongest climbers in the gym.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that was rad. It really, I mean, it honestly changed my life.
Yeah. The climbing community too is worldwide. I mean,
Oh yeah.
With this podcast, we've reached many, you know, the vertical thoughts fingers have spread throughout the world. That's a really gross
The vertical
visual.
thoughts
The
fingers.
vertical thoughts fingers. They're coming for you. But we have kind of reached far and wide with the first 10 episodes of the podcast. And,
Good for you. That's amazing.
Thank you. But I think it's more to do with the climbing community than anything else. I think there, you know, there obviously are other climbing podcasts out there, and they're good, and I've listened to them, and, you know, I'm not saying there was something missing from those, but I think this was the time that the climbing community needs a place to go. They need a place to come together and to be united. And I'm not, again, saying that Vertical Thoughts is the place for that, but it's one of the places for that. And I'm hoping there are, throughout the next several years, more spaces like that for climbers that develop to coalesce and to come together and to support each other. Obviously, climbing gyms, you know, that's
awesome.
It's the main thing. Southern
Right.
California is littered with climbing gyms. We have
Oh, absolutely.
so many.
Yeah.
Some places are not so fortunate. Some places don't have, you know, more than one climbing gym, or you have
Yeah.
to drive an hour to get to the climbing gym. Or I feel for it. I really do.
Yeah. But if you can have a space virtually, then you can say, I am your community.
Exactly.
And so, you know, if someone is listening to this podcast and they don't have the climbing community that we're speaking of, it's like, well, then we're your community.
Right.
You know, the people, you are their community, and I am your community.
We're all
And
climbers.
Yes. And that's the whole point, is like, you don't have to be an incredible climber in order to have a climbing community.
Yeah.
And you can be one of the best and have a climbing community.
Exactly.
Whereas like some other sports, if you're one of the best, you're ostracized.
Yeah. You're different. You're part of like an elite.
And that's not the way that it is in climbing. I mean, we have people that were like, oh my God, you're so good.
Yeah.
And that like makes you a little revered. You're like, oh, I don't want to talk to them. They're too good.
Stop.
But yeah, that's really cool. That's what I'm trying to do on my podcast too, is creating a space where people can feel safe to be.
Yeah.
And to be uniquely them. I have a podcast.
Talk a little bit about it. Plug it.
It's a
Throw it out there. Why not?
It's called Disorderly. And my co-host and I, Braden Wiggins, and I speak about mental health. And so we're in our second season, and it's going really well. And I think that people find a lot of solace in having a space where they can be themselves.
Sure.
And where they can erase a bit of stigma. Mine is specifically for mental health. So it's erasing stigma against the conversation of mental health so that we can have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
And that's what is the beauty of this world of podcasting and this world of social media and this world of the virtual spaces, is that you can have genuine connection and community not right next to each other. And even though we have a lot of bad things to say about social media and about media in general, there's also an incredible world of opportunity that opens up when you have a virtual community, because you're reaching people that wouldn't have been reached before. And you're opening up people's minds to different perspectives and realities that they've never heard before and that they can feel welcomed by.
Yeah. And people can also reach out and touch someone else's experiences and feelings and relate them to their own. And I think specifically with depression, as you were talking about earlier, not only do you feel like it'll never change, and not only does it become who you are, but you also begin to feel like you're the only person that's ever experienced it.
Yes.
And that, you know, what you're going through is by itself your hole. You know what I mean? It's your own hole. You'll never climb out of it. No one else will climb into it with you.
Nope.
And I think hearing people talk about that and open up about that, I think allows you to bridge the gap a little bit between your hole and someone else's.
Yes.
You know, and,
yes.
and to kind of feel a little bit like maybe I am different. Maybe what I feel is different, but maybe other people have overcome theirs as well. So why couldn't I overcome mine? It all starts with the question, you know, what if I wasn't depressed anymore? Or like to begin to comprehend that you could be not depressed anymore. Yeah. That's when the recovery begins. Yeah. Is when you come over I mean, it's a big hump, right? That you got to come over of you know, I'll never get over it. I'll never get over it. And then it's, what if I did get over it? Or what if I could get over it? Or I shouldn't use the phrase get over it, but
which it's like, how could I deal, or how could I cope?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and absolutely. Once you realize like, oh, maybe I'm not going to feel like this forever.
Right.
And that's incredible. I actually had a very recent huge victory of mine. I've been seeing this therapist who operates as like a very specific crisis and severe treatment. And so she was doing EMDR. So that's eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing therapy. And it's specific for major trauma and reprocessing those memories so that your body doesn't feel like it's happening in the present. It's instead like being stored in the past, which is where it is. Sure. Whereas when you're triggered, your body feels like you're in danger at this moment. And that's why like panic attacks and all that good stuff happens. All that bad stuff. Yeah. So she actually just this last Thursday was like, yo, you don't need this specialized treatment anymore. Like this treatment has worked for you and you are functioning in the world really, really well. And so essentially she's like, you've graduated from this level of treatment and you're good to go, like to a maintenance therapist or to no therapist, which I will not choose.
Still fresh.
Yeah. I was like, yo, you're a little extreme.
Pump the brakes, lady.
Yeah. But I was like, I reached out to a couple friends. I was like, hey, I kind of want to celebrate this. Like, get a cake or something because I'm at the point where I'm not having regular panic attacks and I'm happy.
Question mark?
What?
Yeah.
What does that mean? And so if I were to go back and look at Breanna back in the day when I was feeling so depressed and say, you will be here in 5 years. Oh my God. I would have been like, you are insane.
Well, that's awesome and amazing that you can graduate something like that. I mean, it's not something you think about until you're there.
I know.
And then you're like, dude, I'm here and I'm doing this.
I know. And I was actually really thrown back because I was like, wait a minute. You're not going to be my therapist anymore?
You're telling me we did it?
I was like, what do you mean? Like, what does that even mean? What does it mean to reach a point where you don't have to meet with this therapist anymore? Which she was like, well, you're functioning super well in your life. And my intention is to get people who are in crisis, not in crisis, and you're no longer in crisis. And my first instinct was be like, okay, how can you fake a crisis so that you can continue meeting with her?
Quick, have a crisis. Oh no, I'm in crisis.
I'm seeing people.
I see dead people.
She's like, no.
That's the oldest trick in the book.
God. Yeah.
Get out.
I mean, yeah, it was pretty wild. But I mean, it's very cool. I like that I reframed that in my brain because my immediate instinct would just be like, you're abandoning me.
You hate me.
You clearly hate me. And then I was like, no, I like did well.
Yeah.
And I say that I did well because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
To like heal and to prioritize mental health. So even though it's not like a task that you have to complete, right. It's not a competition, I don't have to be in control of it, all of that good stuff. But it is hard work. And so I put in a lot of work and I am better for it.
Yeah, you came out on top.
Yeah. Let's flex again.
Let's do it. I'm sore. I'm sore from being weak. Really tires my muscles out. But I think that's really cool. And I think this is a tough topic because this is the thing that you can talk for hours and hours and hours about. And, we try to restrict it to a roughly 1 hour window here. But you're right. I think that there's a lot to be gleaned from climbing and the personal victories that are contained within the victory of self and what that can do. And I hope that anyone who's listening to this or watching this, take heed. The example's right in front of you. You know what I mean? Living, breathing evidence and proof of what climbing can do for you. If you feel lost, if you feel purposeless, if you maybe feel a little bit alone, rock climbing is an excellent place to start.
Amen.
And if you're already climbing and you still feel those things, don't just abandon hope. Don't think, oh, well, climbing doesn't do that for me. I need something else, I guess. Perhaps it's something that's coming to you still, or going to approach you in climbing, within climbing. Maybe someone you need to climb with, a climbing partner, climbing podcast. I'm just saying,
just saying.
If this becomes your favorite thing, so be it, I guess.
Or a mental health podcast.
Where can they find your podcast?
On any podcast listening place that they want. Apple Podcasts.
Guide them.
Spotify.
Take them by the hand.
Google Play. I think it's on there too.
If they look up disorderly on any of those,
you will find it. Or Instagram, disorderlycast.
At disorderlycast.
You can also find us on the web, disorderlycast.com.
Okay.
You can email us, disorderlycast@gmail.com. But I encourage you to go to your podcasting listen of choice of your choice.
Yes.
All the words.
Yeah.
And type in disorderly and you'll see the two cute white kids, Braden and I.
Look for the two cute white kids.
White kids. And we talk about mental health.
They talk about that.
And it's great.
Go listen to it if you haven't listened to it. If you have, you listen to that, you listen to this, you got it made, dude.
You got
all the bases covered. You're good.
You're going to be fine in life.
Keep doing what you're doing. You're not only going to be strong.
You're going to be the president.
Yep. I guarantee it. As a matter of fact.
This is supported by Disney.
This is brought to you by Disney.
And my podcast is not, to be clear.
And Disney was very specific. They said, Liam, you go balls to the walls with this podcast.
Balls to the walls.
That was their exact
That's
words.
what Disney said.
Balls.
To the walls.
To the walls.
That's the name of my autobiography.
Balls to the walls? Mm-hmm. A personal victory. A story of triumph and failure. And other things.
Coming this fall.
Don't forget that Bobby Newport,
coming this fall,
never had a real job.
I cannot.
In his life. Never forget that.
I will not.
I thank you so much for listening to this, and thank you, Breanna, for coming on to the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course. We'll have you back on.
Sweet.
I'm sure it'll happen. I'm sorry for whatever video problems occurred during this, which I'm looking at the camera and I'm like, is it even on right now? So if you're watching this on YouTube and you're looking at the Vertical Thoughts logo instead of videos of us, sorry.
What are you going to do?
We're working out the kinks still. My kinks.
We're working out your kinks still.
Yeah, I need, speaking of therapy.
Yeah, you need some support.
Need a little help with that. But I thank you so much for listening and for sticking around for this one. And of course, we'll see you guys in the next episode. I want to remind you guys one more time, the 4th of May, Vital Climbing Gym in Murrieta. Be there. I'm not going to say the other one. You know what I'm going to say.
Or be square.
I wasn't going to say it.
Well, you did. I did.
It was you.
You said it.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next one.
Boop. Bye.
Boop. Boop. Got to get the last word in. This is the matriarchy at work is what this is. All right.